Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode 1 of a brand new show we're launching here on Agora Pulse called Confessions of a Social Media Manager. And we're gonna test some things out and try some things out. And I'm gonna try to remember to actually put my overlay back up after the video there. I didn't do that. Shame on me. See, I already messed up in the beginning of the show. But here's the goal and idea of this show. We are going to be interviewing social media managers you may know or may not know. And just kind of pick their brain a little bit, find out a little bit about what their life is like in social media, find out how they got into social media, kind of some likes, dislikes. If they want to gripe, we'll let them gripe, and just kind of air out like the airing of grievances. If you are a Festivus fan and from Seinfeld, this may be kind of a fun thing to hop into and do. But if you don't know who I am, my name is Scott Ayers. I'm known as the content scientist for the Social Media Lab, which is powered by Agora Pulse, where we bust myths, rumors, and stories of social media marketing. You can check out everything I do for the lab over at agorapulselab.com. Make sure you run over there anytime you want to find out what we're doing, listen to podcasts. We're always playing around with different ideas there. You can also on that page, or you can go directly to this link here, agorapulse.com/live. You can grab a trial of Agora Pulse, like a 28-day free trial. And there's actually a coupon code on there to get 1 month for free once you do sign up for a paid plan. So definitely do that. So I want to see, I know a few of you have started to comment. Also, I want to know what your job title is. Let me know in the comments what your job title is. It'd be kind of interesting to see what does everybody do who's watching this live. And if you're watching the replay, which I know most watches of live show tend to happen after the fact, at least on Facebook anyway. And so whatever your job title is, pop that in the comments. Love to see what you got there. I see Deb says, hi, everyone. Brad Friedman, my man, Brad Friedman. He's saying this is going to be awesome. Brad was on my Social Media Lab live show yesterday. If you haven't seen that, after this show's over, go back and watch it. Brad, we look like we had cloned me. And Brad was there in a lab coat and an orange wig. It was like an awkward moment, like you show up to the prom wearing the same outfit. It's kind of what it looked like on yesterday's show. So you definitely got to go make sure you check that out. Brad's title is Chief Bottle Washer. CBW, Chief Bottle Washer was his official title, he says now. Cool show. He actually talked about some stuff. Our whole title yesterday was a day in the life of a agency owner. So we had a lot of fun with that. And so this show, the whole premise of this show, like I said, is we're going to talk to different social media managers. And our goal really is to not tell everybody who it is before the show goes live, which is a little awkward. It's a little strange because that person may or may not promote it beforehand, but that's okay. We kind of want to have a little bit of a mystery there. If you even saw in the beginning our graphic, we covered up the face of the person, and you're not going to know who it is until I bring them on camera here in a few minutes. And so I don't think there's any other comments coming in right now. So here's what I'm going to attempt. I'm going to attempt something I haven't done yet live. I'm going to attempt to bring on our guest, but hide her. It is a she. I already gave that up whenever we scheduled the show. I'm going to attempt to hide her behind an overlay. And if I pull it off right, I should get a big high five. So I'm going to play like a real quick video. It's like literally like 5 seconds. And then she will be there on here as a mystery guest on the show. All right, ready? Let's try this. All right. Welcome to Confessions of a Social Media Manager mystery guest.
Hi, I'm excited to be here, and this is one of the weirdest things I've ever done.
It's nice to hear you, but not see you. Let me read a little bit. If I look over my other screen, please forgive me. I'm looking over real quick to kind of look at the bio of this mystery guest here, and I would love for you to know, see if you know who it is. I've known this person for 10 years. Probably on social media marketing, different places I've worked for, and watched her grow as a YouTube marketer and a podcaster. She's written a book here recently, done all kinds of stuff. She runs, a massive social media, I think a massive company, doing all kinds of social media marketing for businesses and empowering women to do a lot of marketing. And so we're going to have some fun with her. I'm curious if anybody has any guesses. Jason Gaff said Bella Vasta. That's a good guess, Jason. You're not there. You're close, but you're not there. I think y'all may live in the same state, if I believe.
We live in the same city, actually.
Oh, same city. So we're getting close there. But no, that was a good guess. But no, you didn't quite get that one right. So I'm gonna go ahead and break the mystery, and bring her on if I can find my little thing over here that I want to do. This is a bad thing. Sometimes when you're producing your own show, you're like, where do I got to click over here? And I've got the comments pulled up. So here is, without further ado, our mystery guest today is Desiree Rose Martinez. Desiree, thanks for being my guinea pig here.
It allows for me to be awkward, weird, and unprepared, because so are you. So we're good.
Right. It was the first, and I think I actually pulled it off. I have to go back and watch the replay, but I think I hit the timing. I did that little intro with that beat, so I knew when to hit the the overlay. Otherwise, the overlay is just sitting there on top of that little video. That's the only best way I can figure out how to get that on there. So before we get into the questions, I said a little bit about you, but like, give us your, let's say, 30-second elevator pitch of who you are, and what company you work for right now, what company you run right now.
Sure. So my name is Desiree Martinez, like you said. I've been a social media marketer for over 11 years, and I run an agency called All-in-One Social Media, where we help businesses grow through do-it-for-you content marketing services. We're a mission-driven agency, so all of our social media managers are military spouses so that they're able to work anywhere that they're stationed around the world. I grew up a military kid. I became an Air Force wife, and the common theme tends to be it's very difficult to get work. And so I wanted to fill that need and do that. My YouTube channel is focused on helping you grow your business with better social media and content marketing. And I also am the hostess of the podcast Women of YouTube.
Very, very cool. And I like the military thing. I live here in Central Texas. Like, literally Fort Hood is in my backyard. And so, like, when I was growing up, our house would literally rattle when they practice overnight. So we called it the booming. Fort Hood was booming last night, we'd always say. So yeah, I love that what you do and what you do for the women with your new company and stuff. So let's hop right into these questions, because I think we'll reveal a lot of stuff. We have 10 questions that we may or may not get to all of them, but they are there. Depending on if Desiree answers really quickly, then we'll move to the next one. But I always kind of want to find out a little bit about Desiree. If you have a question for her, feel free to put it into the chat in between questions. I'll look over and see what you're asking. So, very first question. This will be an easy one for you, I think. You just mentioned what you do now in military wives but how did you specifically? Is there a different specific reason you got into social media marketing?
I got into it on accident. So I graduated college in 2007 and was presented with a tanking economy, and I ended up having to move back in with my parents shortly thereafter. And I have a background in multimedia art. Okay. And so it's one of those situations where it's like, well, the first thing to go is always the way things look, the pretty things, all of that. And so when I was networking, trying to find just like scrappy graphic design work, all of these adults would ask me, what's this Facebook thing? And I had been on it since 2006, when you could only get it with a college email. And I was like, what is with these adults wanting to be on Facebook? Like, that's weird. But I figured it out, and I started teaching people as a networking play, like, hey, let's get together and I'll teach you how to use Facebook. And in return, maybe you'll use me for services. And then one day someone's like, Desiree, you should use for a business. I looked him down the face and I was like, no one's going to pay me to be on Facebook. And so I literally eat those words every day, obviously. And so since then, I started just figuring out like what being a social media marketer was. Again, it wasn't a title, it wasn't a thing. It was person that does things on Facebook, right? And so I started figuring out what that was, and how Scott came into my life is because we both were working with. He worked with David Foster at the time, and he's from Live Streaming Pros now, but he had this tool that he had created that lets you do these Facebook landing pages. And so I was using it as my bread and butter for a long time. Like, okay, so we had way back in the day, these things
so long ago,
like a Likegate, where you would go to a Facebook page for the first time, and you wouldn't see anything, but it would be like this page for this special reason, or we'll give you this coupon, or whatever it was, and you'd hit like, and then the whole thing would change. It'd be like a little like website inside of Facebook. Right. And so I was making those and I wanted a easier, streamlined, cheaper way to do it so I could keep my overhead low and my profits high. And that's how I got into, what was it, like Hub something? Hub, it wasn't Hubsy. Something like that.
Well,
Something.
Hubsy was actually the company of Fan Page
Oh yeah, there
Engine.
it was. It was like Fan
Yeah,
Page Engine.
yeah.
I don't know, but yeah. So
And then
and
when
then
it became
like in
iFrame Engine,
2011,
yeah, it had yeah,
was it 2011? And 2011, I think they got rid of the timeline. They got rid of it.
yeah.
And they switched the timeline thing, and so it was a whole thing.
Mhm.
But that's probably one of our confessions. Um, they're always messing with things that make us money. But I was just figuring it out. And so I would do these Facebook landing pages, and I would also post for like 60 days for them on social media. And the battle I was dealing with in those early stages was trying to explain to people why it was important and like what the value was in it. So people liked the value of the landing page. They didn't give two shizzles about the posting for them, which I thought was really funny because they couldn't quantify someone having a conversation for them. They could quantify a website, like they understood that concept. And so those first few years was a lot of education and teaching people, and then like proving to them like why it wasn't going anywhere and how they needed to be there and do it.
Yeah, I think that I'm pulling myself back on the camera there. Yeah, I remember those old days, like the like gate. I forgot about like gates. That brought back some memories and some horror stories. But that was the thing. If you remember Facebook when it came, it was Facebook marketing was easier back then, in my opinion.
Much
Like
easier.
it was so easy to get. I think you were called fans back then. That's
Yeah.
why we were Fan Page Engine. And actually, that's how I got my start in social media marketing was through Fan Page Engine and through David Foster. And we're still friends. We at least we gripe at each other a lot, but we're still really good friends today. But yeah, that little start was where a lot of people I think got started because we saw the power of it. You saw that you could do a lot. But yeah, people just wanted a web page on Facebook because they didn't know what a web page was. And I did that, and I also did that. Remember the banners? Did you do those?
Oh yeah, I
You make
called
the
them
banners.
I called them the social media business card, and
Oh,
they
that's a
were
good one.
long.
Yeah,
And like my
I
claim
loved it.
my claim to fame was you would design it, but you'd have to make sure to account for what they saw on the profile picture. Like the
Right,
square,
right.
a square at the time wasn't a circle.
Yeah,
And so it was like, okay, what do we want this top part? And then it was like the business information, like
yeah.
contact, their logo tag, website, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah,
Um,
and that's like pre-Canva. That's pre all these sites that make you let you create stuff super easy. So like those of us who had templates, boy, I was selling those like
I
crazy.
told you I have art background, so
Right.
I've been doing graphic design work in Adobe and Photoshop and Illustrator since like 2001. So it was just like, all right, here you go.
Yeah, those were definitely different times. And I do want to point out, Sarah Monroe. I appreciate you watching. Said this is an awesome service to the child of two veterans. She was referring to your
Oh,
business
they
and
show
what
my
you're doing
page.
with
Yeah,
with
appreciate
with spouses of and I guess Brad actually has a client close to me. We'll have to talk off camera later on about that to find out what that is. That'd be interesting to know. He's in like Colorado. I was like, who's he got a business with in Fort Hood? Yeah, so I love your start. I think a lot of us have a similar start to some degree, of just kind of accidentally falling into it and going, oh, we can make money off this. Okay, cool. And you've already answered the next question, kind of, sort of, but I do want to kind of just find out some insight from you because you have a bachelor's degree.
Yeah, so I have a bachelor's degree in multimedia art and animation. My goal when I was going through college, and I had since I was 10, was to be an animator for Disney and Pixar.
Oh, I have a kid that wants to do that. I'm like, you better get working on that now.
It's a thing. It's a
No,
lot
it
of
is.
work.
It is. Yeah. Now, and you've got that degree, but do you think, as someone now who's been in social media for 10 years or so, doing marketing in the trenches, do you think a college degree is necessary for social media managers?
I think a college degree is useless for the majority of jobs.
Where's the bell? Ding, 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 ding. Yeah.
I think that college education is important for very specific kinds
Right.
of jobs. Like, I don't think I'd want someone who built the airplane I'm flying in to not have a college education.
Right.
I don't think I'd want someone who was a lawyer. I see Miss Jackson just joined us. I would want my lawyer to not have a college education, my doctor to not have college education. I think really anything that's like in marketing sales, business, communications, like basically almost anything I think under the BA
Right.
category. I don't think it really is necessary, needs to exist. I think that there's a lot that you can learn from research outside of this. Like we have SBA, we have SCORE, there's networking, there's a chamber of commerce in
Right.
literally every city in the United States. You know, there's countless online courses and resources. And if you really are just like basic, we have YouTube to teach us so many different things. And all of the tools out there, every tool out there has a website with lots of blogs and information about, you know, what they do, like how you can better use their tool. And so when it comes to marketing and it comes to social media, I don't think that it's necessary at all. And I can speak from experience because I've just recently hired some new employees
Mhm.
and they're new college grads. And they're like, everything I do at this job, I did not learn in college.
That's my curiosity. Like I see, because I see job postings too where they're requiring bachelor's degree in marketing or social media marketing. I'm thinking, man, we get a 4-year degree. You started that 4 years ago. What you learned freshman year is bunk now at this point. Even what you learned 6 months
Well,
ago
it's
is
like half
out
of
the
your
window.
college credits are just basically high school 2.0. Like it's so
Right.
stupid.
Yeah.
It's literally, it's in my opinion, it's a very commercial system that is ripe for a redo. But
I mean, now it could be a good idea for someone who's starting out if they do want to go to college, and that's what maybe a communications degree, learn how to journalism, learn how to
Mhm.
write good copy. Now that
I
you're going
think
to
that
have
you
some
can work with
training on,
mentors. I think you can take
right?
classes at a college around specific things you want to learn. I just don't think you need a degree.
Yeah, I mean, I have a bachelor's, I have a BSc, so it's a bachelor's of science and education. My emphasis though is church recreation. So spin that around in your head. Now, and this is what I do now for a living. So yeah, you just don't. Sometimes your degrees get your foot in the door,
Mhm.
but I think in our industry, I think you can go to something like the social media manager school that we have. Eric Fisher runs for us now. You get tons of education from those in the trenches
Yeah, I
and
think
learn.
that
There's resources
I
everywhere.
think there's something to be said for getting an education. I
Right.
think education has a lot of in value. You also learn a lot from doing and failing. But I think that from like when you need an education, you're learning about something that you don't like. There are other ways to learn besides a college degree. And I see that Sarah in our comments was like, pilots don't have a bachelor's degree. I know that they go through they go through aviation school to get some form of education.
Right.
And so, you know, she says that college education brings critical thinking skills and broad knowledge bases, serves transition to technology and market changes. You must have gone to a really awesome college, Sarah, because that was not what my experience was. And the majority of people I know are like, college was a waste of my time. So I think that you've had an awesome experience, and I love that you have that and you bring that perspective to our live stream today.
Yeah, definitely. Like, I know for me, when I went to college, I just want to check the boxes, take all
Yeah.
my history, literature classes, and then, get my piece of paper that I still have not completely ever paid for. Still got those student loans looking at me and haunting over me. So if you're just hopping in, this is a new show here in Agora Pulse called Confessions of a Social Media Manager. Desiree Rose Martinez is our first guest on the show. She's my guinea pig today to see how the flow goes and play around with some of the overlays that we pulled up. And so we're just going to ask some different questions about what she's done in social media. And I want to move over to kind of a little bit about, we know your background now, when you got started, your education you had, how long you've been doing it. This is going to be a little different for you probably because you have employees. So you're not like an individual doing it just for people.
I
But
was an individual for a very long time, though.
but how many profiles do you think right now you and your company manage for your clients?
Oh, that's a right now we have less than normal, but they're more demanding.
Okay. Well, let's
So I
rephrase
wanna
that then.
I wanna
Go
say
ahead.
it's somewhere in the vicinity of 50.
Okay. Well,
50 to 60. At
what
my
do you think
peak,
is an
it was like
ideal number though for an individual? So let's say one of your employees or you're an individual. What's an ideal number that I can juggle and handle as a social media manager? That might be a better way to
um,
phrase it.
I think it depends on what you're doing. So, to use my example, if you were doing content creation, so curating, well, like finding articles to share, while also creating graphics and thinking through strategy and leading into other stuff. Um, You probably, and it's like, if you also want to, like, I think at least half of your day would probably be spent on that minimum,
Mhm.
because you also need to have time to be your own client and also do leads, calls, and network and that kind of stuff. Um, Probably somewhere in the vicinity, probably 10. Like,
Okay.
I think that 10 would probably be like the peak of like where you would like cap out. I know for me that was when it was. Like I said, when I started All in One in 2015, I was pregnant and um I worked on weekends because my husband worked and we had and I had a my son was like 16, 15 months. I was pregnant with my daughter and my husband worked because Air Force. And so on the weekends is when I was able to get all of my work done.
Right.
And then I would like answer emails and stuff at the weekend. So when I hit 10, I was like the peak of my limit and I was stressed about it all the time. I was like, do I have enough time to get this done? And so that was when I was like, okay, now it's time to transition into the mission, which is to have contractors who manage that part of
Right.
it. So, because there's anything I know about business, it's that you're not able to grow if you're doing the work. And
Yeah, as an agency for sure. Yeah, that's definitely true. Yeah.
so I think really as anybody, I think that all individuals reach a point where they're getting help with something, whether it's like a CPA, working with a lawyer, project manager, a graphic designer. There's some things that eventually you expand your team to help you accomplish the things that you want to accomplish.
Very cool. I do want to go back to Sarah's comment here. She's got a degree in molecular biology. She really is a scientist in this live
Nice.
video. And you teach people how to use Instagram now. Yeah, isn't it funny how life kind of does some interesting uh, turnabouts or or 180s, if you will. So yeah, now let's kind of, what do you, then we're going to get like a personal question here about your social media. And then
Okay.
we're going to get into like the ranting and confessions. All right.
Okay.
Um, what social media platform do you personally use the most for either your own entertainment, your own just you want to be on there all the time? What is your number one thing?
I would say Instagram. I spend the most time on Instagram than anywhere else. I like that I think for me, I like that the links aren't there. I don't want to, because I'm a video creator,
Right.
I'd rather consume videos even from a micro level, from a story level, or even an IGTV level. Because I just don't like all the links and taking other things and researching things, and then I'm falling victim to just believing in headlines, and I don't want to be that kind of a person. Um, and so I think that's why Instagram is good for me. I also like things that are pretty. I think it's the art part of me. So that's the one I use the most personally. If you want to, depending on how you categorize it, YouTube is the where I grow my business. Like YouTube, I'm all in on it
Right.
because YouTube is how I get leads for my business. And plus, I have a lot of additional revenue streams attached to it. But I don't really consider YouTube a social network, because it's not super social. It's just super like
Yeah, I guess it depends
rare
on the
content,
channel.
and you
Yeah.
can sometimes get comments and stuff.
Yeah, I mean, so I think some of those gaming channels, they probably do a little bit more of the
Yeah.
community kind of deal, but it's interesting though because you are so big into YouTube, you don't really consume a lot on YouTube.
Oh, I do. I'm on YouTube.
So
YouTube
you
is
do, okay,
because I think that I try to consume content that isn't in my vertical, right? I try to consume things recreationally. Like one of my favorite channels is Super Carlin Brothers. It's all like pop culture theory stuff. I really like how to drink. He's this guy that just creates these crazy cocktails around pop culture stuff. So he thinks like Rick and Morty drinks and Back to the Future drinks. So,
oh
um,
wow,
I really like binging with Babish, especially now that he's brought on I forget her name. She's a girl. She used to be on Bon Appetit, the BA Test Kitchen. I just like a lot of like those kinds of things. And I love that with the algorithm, when you're watching things that are entertaining to you, they give you really great recommendations for
right.
new content to consume. And I just think that as far as algorithms go, YouTube is one of the smartest ones.
Definitely for sure. All right, so here's where the ranting and the confessions get started up. So for you, and
Okay.
we have a like and dislike on here, so it's not all just griping. What is the number one thing you like about being a social media manager? Let's go that one first, and then like, what's the number one thing you completely dislike about being a social media manager?
Yeah. So I think what I like about being a social media manager is I get to hang on Instagram and Facebook all the time. I get to create people. I get to be people's voice and message and help them really grow their business. Based on what like they're doing their voice. And especially because so many business owners like don't know what to say, they don't have the time for it. And I really understand that perspective of it. I also say at the same time, the thing I dislike the most is that I'm always on Instagram and Facebook. So even when I'm like recreationally scrolling, if I see something that works for work, like, oh, I like that post idea, or oh, I need to go check this out, I need to email it to myself. Like I'm kind of always on. And so I think that having barriers is hard, but it's been 11 years of this for me. So when people are like, oh, I did a social media detox, I'm like, so for me, then basically, I don't get to work. I don't get anything. I don't get to communicate with people. I don't get to like a big part of like who I am and what I am is rolled up into social media, which I love. I'm not complaining about it at all, but it does make it harder to like step away from time to time when you really want to. And there's also always the pressure of having to post things all the time. It has to be perfect because you have to lead by example. And sometimes I also want to have an opinion. And as a social media manager, because I'm not allowed to have an opinion for the most part on social because of just my personal stance on it. You know, there's just a lot of like that kind of stuff that rolls into it.
Yeah, I think that the end part you said there, I think a lot of us would agree with. It's we especially when you work for a brand or you work for multiple brands, you got to be careful what you say on social because it could come back to bite you. You know, unless you're already financially well off and set up, then you can get away with it maybe. Or if you're your own brand, you don't care. But yeah, I think social media managers struggle with that a lot, is because they can quickly the brand can get associated with that person's viewpoint, and the brand may not want that. So that balance I've gotten for me, I know for me personally, like I don't post a lot on social anymore, just because it's just like, yeah, I don't want to deal with the arguments and stuff, and I post funny stuff more than anything.
Yeah, I mean, I'll post things like usually things around like girl power and things that are happening, and I'll post up like things that are a little deep or related to my family and stuff. But I don't know. I think when it's your business, it just gets a little different. And COVID's been really hard for me because I used to get excited about posting and sharing like the things that we would do as a family, and the things that I would get to go do and share, just to like sort of share the experience and these cool things I'm doing. And it's just like I can't post one more picture of my kids sitting around their underwear doing schoolwork. Like that's not appropriate. And also like it's everyone else's. So just one of those things. It's like it has me that hard. I'm hoping that once we get back to like the real world, like we move into the next phase of like whatever living is going to look like, that hopefully we can get back to having more fun and meaning and depth and stuff like that from my perspective.
Right. Yeah, I think those are definitely. I think most of us probably have those same likes and dislikes about it. Now, I saw a question a minute ago from Mitch, and we'll get to Mitch's question, I think, in this one perhaps.
Okay.
This question here: what is the hardest social media platform to get engagement on, in your opinion, as a 10-year plus experienced social media manager?
Facebook, all day.
Facebook
is the hardest one to get engagement on.
And it used to be the easiest.
It used to be the easiest. And the thing is, it's so hard with Facebook is that if you post regularly, which is advised across the board, and even with using your analytics, like find the best time today and stuff, when you post something that's a miss, Facebook penalizes you for it.
Right.
Versus like trying to help you in a different way. Or maybe like rather than like looking at like, okay, continuously they're having the struggle that's working. And after seeing what YouTube Analytics offers to me that says, hey, this is what's working and this is not what's working, you should make more of what's working. I'm like, Facebook and YouTube have just as many users. Why can't Facebook give us that kind of information from a Facebook page perspective? Because there's only 50 million Facebook pages. Like, help people out versus taking away the things that we like or that are helpful or making things more complicated. Like nothing makes me more angry right now than Facebook Business Manager. Like the force into that right now, it just makes me so angry.
Mine works half the time it doesn't, or you get blocked out of it, or
like I'm an admin on all these pages, but then I go into Business Manager and some of the pages I'm an admin of are not there. And I'm like,
yeah,
you can't do what I need to do in here if you don't have. It's just I hate that. I really like Creator Studio. I think Creator Studio is really well thought through
when it works. Yeah,
it works nicely, and and the fact that you can do so much with Instagram in there, and like I like that you can schedule long form video. I like that you can schedule carousel posts. I like that there's a lot of options, and then they also have good insights in there about like what your posts are doing, what your engagement is like, all that kind of stuff. But Business Manager shits the bed. It just does. It's just, so like as far as like social media platforms and engagement, like for me it is Facebook pages, because it's just so hard to get anything seen anymore. And
what's the easiest to get engagement, do you think?
I want to say Instagram. When you show up on Instagram, and it's so funny because they're owned by the same company. When you show up on Instagram and you do it correctly, and by correctly I mean you have a visual that is appealing. It doesn't have to be picture perfect, filtered, whatever, just a good graphic, a good image, and then you have a catchy headline and you can get people to read it. Like that's hugely helpful.
Right.
But what's key for Instagram engagement is if you engage, you will get more engagement back.
Right.
Like if you can, like there's this new tool I just recently started using. It's called $1.80.
Heard of
I
that.
love
Somebody
it.
else talked about that on another show. Yeah.
$1.80 is by Gary Vee. Gary Vee adopted this mentality of like your 2 cents on like 10 posts around 9 hashtags. So you create like 9 hashtags, like social media marketing, social media manager, entrepreneur, right? And then they find the hashtags, and then you comment on 10 of those posts around each hashtag. And the point is like you eventually give your 2 cents on all of them, and it ends up being $1.80. We've been doing that since the start of the year, and my engagement, my growth is through the roof. It's not as much about my account. My account helps because then they go and I see my comments have increased and my views have increased and my likes have increased from doing more engagement, because it's a 2-parter. The thing about Facebook pages, it's hard, is there's not a way to do that.
Yeah.
As a page, I have to do that as an individual. And so every other platform, Twitter, LinkedIn, Instagram, like you can be a business entity and go reach out to conversations,
Yeah,
and connect. And Facebook doesn't let you do it. It's like almost at this point, Facebook pages exist to keep your social media lights on. Right? Okay, I'm gonna go check your website and make sure you're in business still by going to your Facebook page, and 2, to run ads. Like that seems to be the only reason that it exists at this point. And it's an unfortunate place. Like you can have such amazing success in groups. I love Facebook groups. I think Facebook groups are amazing and have so much potential, and you can do so much with them. But it's just, and your profile is hit or miss, but pages is just so frustrating. Especially because I've been in it for so long. I was like, it was so good, and you just completely screwed it up.
Yeah, it's kind of weird. Maybe, and Facebook keeps trying. They do it here and there. We'll see it with new changes. They'll allow pages to have their own feed, the pages, other pages they follow, but it's still awkward, and it's still not enough pages are following one another. And yeah, I don't understand when they do it the way they do, because you can't get the engagement like you do on Twitter and Instagram and YouTube, or because you use your channel to do everything. And all of those. And I want to kind of piggyback on this topic for a question that Mitch asked earlier. I don't know if he's still watching or not, but you might have a good answer to this one. What's the most challenging content to create for clients, and why? I think that goes along with our engagement thing we talked about.
Yeah. So my agency focuses on working with a lot of service-based businesses, and they're busy working on their business. Like they're in it all the time, but they want it to grow. And so it's hard for them to know what to post, what to do, what to pay attention to, what to create, all that kind of stuff. And so they rely on my team to come up with stuff out of our butt, like completely from scratch. And so we do that a lot. As far as like what's the most challenging content to create though, for me, I have to say that it's probably creating video content for them. Now we have part of our packaging, we do text animation videos that are around 30 seconds long. And with those, what you do is it's kind of like those Business Insider videos where there's like stock video and photos, and then there's text about something on it, and then it like promotes the business. And we found those to be really good, especially when it comes to Instagram. But it doesn't allow for like personal connection. So the challenge is getting the clients to give us stuff that's personal, like photos of themselves, photos of their work, testimonials, selfie videos, stories, just some sort of like their face, because so many of them are strapped for time and they just get really just nervous and frustrated about what to do, what to say, and then they get all self-conscious about it, and it's a whole thing. And that part's really frustrating. When I can get a client that will, one, let us do it for them, that's always really well. But when someone's like really interested, like, yeah, I will create all day for you, I just don't know what to do with it or where to put it, then it becomes like that's the perfect situation for us.
Yeah, I think that video, like you say, getting video for clients, that's got to be the hardest thing, because everybody at first hates being on camera. They're scared for whatever reason. It's once they get used to it, you just go and
I think there's a lot of hang up. Like, again, I talk about, because of the Women of YouTube podcast, I talk to a lot of women. And
right,
a lot of women say a lot of the concern around getting started with video is like the appearance. Like, how are people going to take what I have, how I look, or they're going to judge what I say, and then there's the comparison game to other women who are really doing it well and are really well presentable,
right.
or really look really pretty or nice, like whatever that standard they've put in place for that is. And so I think that self-consciousness rolls into a lot of people. Like, I think men deal with that just as much as women, in their own way. I don't think nearly as much, but in their own way. And I think also not knowing what to say. When in fact, like I tell people all the time, like, I have two things that I tell everyone: you need to show up, give value, and be yourself. Like, that's the first
Right.
one. Like, that's how video and social media marketing works at this point in time. And number two is, you're an expert in this and you talk about what you do all the time. How is it so different to be in a room full of people networking, on a Zoom call, or answering a sales call and giving this information? How is it any different than doing it on camera? And so it's just breaking that barrier down. I think that it becomes a struggle.
Yeah, I think you just this is the new title of your new book. Start, suck, get better. I think you just like said that basically wrapped up. You just got to start. You're going to suck at it. You got to get better. I remember when like you were giving it, and last time I had you on a show, we were like, this needs to be a t-shirt. So I love that. That's kind of the new revamped title
Yeah.
of your book. I saw that.
And for those of you that are listening, like, I'm relaunching my book. It'll be coming out the last week of February. My book, I totally did like a marketing thing. I YouTubed it. Like, the cover and the title just weren't working. And so I'm just redoing it. I just recorded the Audible like last weekend for it. I added a bonus chapter talking about like what has been going on through COVID and the lessons I've learned from it. It's very much a memoir.
Yeah.
It's very much, I feel like if you're a woman, if you are a mom, like, this is totally, I think, a book that you would like. It's a super easy read. And I think you can get a lot out of it and learn from someone else's sucking. So.
Definitely true. So let's move on to the next question. If you're just hopping on, I'm interviewing Desiree Rose Martinez, and we're having confessions of a social media manager. We're learning quite a bit here. We got a few more questions we'll cover, and this show is going to air every Thursdays at 12 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on Agora Pulse. So the next thing, this will be an interesting one for you. I think you'll have a lot of insight on this. Is, in your opinion, what is the most important skill set that you've got to have if you want to be a social media manager, especially a successful social media manager?
Attention to detail.
That's it. That's the one answer.
Attention to detail.
Yeah, I got you on camera spotlighted, and that's what you're like.
It's important.
Yeah.
And I think that this is, where my art background comes into play, because it's the details that set things apart. So, for example, when you're creating a graphic, it's important to make sure that if people get all excited, like they get into Canva, and so they get all excited about all the different fonts and the colors and the pictures, and they can just make this like muddy mess. And it's like, okay, what's the one or two fonts that you use, and are they complementary fonts? What are colors you should use that translate really well digitally? Like, you don't want to have like a turquoise on a pink, like that's going to look really bad. You don't want to have a lot of big red text, that's really bad. And so it's like having those understanding about those kinds of details to make something look better. Those the really simple adjustments and thoughtfulness through what you post in your graphics and in your copy is really important. So like in your copy, it's like, okay, how many characters is my first line? Because that's the most important one. And traditionally it's 115 characters. For 115 characters matter the most, right? Should I put an emoji to set context for it? What emoji do I use? Should I change the font? Because you can do that in Facebook and Instagram.
Right.
Like, do I change the font to make this stand out? Those are the kinds of details that you really work through. And until you've been a social media manager and you study it, you'll start to pick up on those more and more. And again, this comes into what I was talking about earlier about how my team of very educated social media managers and my multimedia specialists, they're very well educated in what they do, but their attention to detail, because they don't understand the details, is so they're, again, everything that they learned from me, they're like, I didn't learn this in college. And I was like, I don't expect you to, because you probably did one social media class in college. And my multimedia specialist shot everything horizontally for 4 years.
Interesting.
Like, so social video is a totally different thing than actual like video versus business video. So it's its own thing. So the attention to detail within the medium, I think, is really is one of the most important skill sets you can have.
Now, what do you think is your biggest mistake that you've made as a social media manager, and how did you fix that mistake?
So I actually talk about this in my book. So the biggest mistake I've ever made, I think, as a social media manager, more recently versus like my OG days, I feel like that's just ripe for mistakes. It's the sucking, right?
Right.
Is not adjusting services to reflect the times. So for an example, for context of what I'm talking about, when in August of 2019, like half of my business just disappeared. Half of my clients were just like, we're done. We're taking this in-house. We're going to do this now. And I was like, what is going on? Well, what I didn't do was make the conscious decision to make sure that what we were producing from a package standpoint was relevant and modern to what was working now. Daily posts to Facebook and Twitter with just some graphics and stuff like that. So what's really popular in 2015 when we started. And when you fast forward, posting to Facebook and Instagram with video was more important. And so like we didn't adapt. And so I think that that's a big mistake that social media managers make, is that I have made, is I didn't adapt what our services were. I didn't think through like, how could we offer it? How could we package it? How could we do it affordably and effectively for our customers? But once I took the time and figured it out, and I try to sit down with what I do every year now and looking at like, what are we doing that's working with our, that's why I leaned into YouTube management in the past year, because it just makes sense. It's what I think works best for people, because you can take one video and use it as the pillar of all of your content marketing. So it's one of those things that's like, I had to sit down and realize like what was going to work really well, and how could I continue with my mission and the services of do it for you, and figure out how to systemize it and package it up.
Now, have you ever made, this will be like a confession here, have you ever made a mistake for a client on their social media, and what happened? How did you handle that?
Yeah. I mean, I'm not saying it happens all of the time. Yeah. I think the number one mistake that's continuously made by my agency, not continuously made, is we don't make this mistake often, but sometimes it happens, where we will select the wrong account to post to.
That's what I was figuring you were going to say. Yeah.
And I think that when you're managing a lot of accounts, like I said, we have like 50 something accounts that we're managing, up to 100. I think we've had up to 100 at one time.
Right.
Like sometimes you just like fat finger, like accidental click when you're selecting where it needs to go, and it just gets posted on accident. And like those are the things where you're just like, you just go, you delete it, and you apologize to the client. I think other ones that we've also made is like missed punctuation, or like we've misspelled a word where it's like switching of letters, or like we added an extra T or like an I to the end, like that kind of a thing. I think that those are probably the most common social media manager mistakes in general. But for me, the biggest mistake I made, I don't even know if it was a mistake, It was just more like an industry faux pas. And again, I talk about it in my book. The week of so April 15th of 2013 was the week of the Boston bombing. And I was working as a social media producer for my local CBS affiliate. And it was a whole thing. Like living through a crisis is one thing. Working in a newsroom through a crisis is insane. And when they caught the first brother that Friday, so the Boston bombing was like a Tuesday, and then they caught the guys on Friday. We were listening to police scanners, and they shouted out that they caught him. And so the website team and myself, we went and we just made the announcement post. And I guess what I didn't know is, having no news experience, we're not supposed to report on police scanners. And because at the time news, they vetted. They got 3 confirmed sources before they would publish anything. And so I actually lost my job because I tweeted out that they had caught the Boston bomber, which they actually had done. But because it was against their protocol for doing it, that's what happened. And what's really interesting about when you reflect on the last 4 years, the rampant amount of false, fake, news, misinformation, headline reading, all that kind of stuff, that kind of thing would never happen nowadays. But 7 years ago, almost 8 years ago, it did.
Yeah, that's interesting. You lost your job over that, and that kind of stinks. But yeah, you didn't know better.
They hired me very specifically because I had no news experience. They wanted to business experience.
Right.
I could run their social because they wanted to add a sales component to it. When they actually posted up the new job, news experience was one of the first requirements.
You got to know the rules there, if you will. Yeah, that's really, really intriguing. We've got one question from Mitch. We'll try to tackle your question here at the end, because I could probably go for a long time on this one. But I do want to find out this last question from Desiree. I think this will be good, information for especially new social media managers. Is what's the best advice that you never took regarding social media management or marketing or anything really?
I don't know.
That's a hard one.
It is a really hard one.
It's like a hindsight 2020 moment.
If I was to say that, maybe the best advice can spark my worth. The best advice is to test everything.
Right.
And I think that you have to see what works and doesn't work. I think that I guess maybe the best advice I never took is you have to be everywhere. Every business needs to be on every social network at the same time. And I think that probably is super inaccurate, and it's a lesson hard learned. I don't think every business needs to be on Facebook. I don't think every business needs to be on YouTube. I don't think every business needs to be on Instagram. I think what you need to do is find the one that makes most sense for your audience and get really good at it, figure it out, and then give value there, and then add more in versus trying to do them all at once.
Definitely true. I think that's true. I think everybody wants to get into everything, and they tell you got to be everywhere, all things, all people, and you really don't.
I think you need to claim them all.
Yeah, it's good to have. Yeah, go ahead and throw your flag on that name, especially
But
now it's harder to get names.
I don't think everything is for everyone. It's not just industry, but it's also your personality. I don't think some people are just. I get it.
Yeah, I know, like Marcus Sheridan, for example, he has gone all in on LinkedIn. He's gotten rid of every other account. He is not on any social media platform now but LinkedIn for himself. That's all he wants to do, because he knows he can invest the time there. It's a better audience for him. And it's a lot of us are like, what? But okay, it works for him. Go for it. That's fine.
Yeah, do what works for you. I'm a social media manager that's all in for YouTube. And people probably, I teach people on my YouTube channel how to do things for Facebook and live streaming and LinkedIn and all these social platforms. But I'm on YouTube. That's my main platform because that's what works for me.
All right, let's tackle for a minute or two.
I know what this question is.
Mitch asks, what do you each think of Clubhouse? What do you think, Desiree, of Clubhouse as a social media manager? Maybe not as a user, but as a social media manager.
I cannot social media manage a Clubhouse. That is for sure.
Yeah.
Um, I think marketers are hyping it up way too much. I think it needs some more features.
Yeah.
There needs to be a replay. Like there should at least be a 24-hour replay for people that miss things.
Hmm.
Because otherwise you're just on it all the time.
Yeah, that's what
And
I was
it's like, when and how do you get anything done? I don't even listen to music sometimes because I have so much I'm paying attention to.
right.
Like I have to literally turn on music that either has no words or is in another language if I need to have music on it, but I also have stuff I have to do. And you have to spend time in the rooms, and you have to find the people to follow so they can follow you. And it's very mean. It's very OG. It's very OG social media.
Oh
Like,
yeah.
like how it's going is how I think new social networks that will come in, because we're not done with them.
No.
Well, this is how it's going to be. I think obviously it needs to come to Android. I literally had to buy an iPhone to mess with it. I'm not an iPhone user, I'm an Android user.
I'm an Android person too. Yeah.
Yeah, I had to go buy a cheap ass iPhone off of like a store of like $100 or something. I could test it out.
Right.
I think it's cool. Like I do like some of the conversations. Like if I plan conversation around something specific. Like YouTube is a big deal right now for some reason on Clubhouse. Because all the YouTubers are there. And I do like this women's Q&A, like where we bring people onto our stage and they ask a question and we give them feedback. But I don't know. I mean, it's like another way of live streaming. If I could like live stream in Clubhouse at the same time, I would. But Clubhouse it's against our terms of service to like create other content.
It's supposed to be. I know people are doing it, but yeah it's not.
Yeah, to create other content. I even did it once. I went live into my private Facebook group for Women of YouTube and did a Clubhouse at the same time. I was talking about like 4 strategies that you can do like right now. The other thing I can also say is if you don't collaborate, it's very hard to have success.
Interesting.
So,
yeah,
Mitch, I think it's got a long way to go.
Yeah.
I think it's a cool concept though.
Yeah, I think the concept is cool. For me, I mean, I haven't got on. I'm not an Android user, even though I have a MacBook, which I don't use the MacBook features. It's just a Chrome browser for me. I mean, I just like heard every Apple MacBook user out there. But I'm Android, so I don't even have an ability to get on there yet. I may be getting an iPad, so I may play around it. But for me, it's still that I don't like FOMO. I am not a big fan of that. I don't want to go consume content on your time. I want to consume it on my time.
Yes.
So for me to have to, they're, XYZ person's going on, they're having a Clubhouse thing at 5 a.m. Then the only way I can listen to is being there at 5 a.m. No, I'm going to consume content when I need to.
It's so network television circa 1990s, right?
Yeah. We got DVR for a reason.
We live in an era of on-demand media.
Yeah.
Where it's just service to us, and then we consume it when we're ready.
Right.
Like even with YouTube, with what I do on YouTube, it is very much like my first 48 hours do not matter, like every other YouTube educator likes to tell you, because my snowball happens in 3 months and 6 months afterwards, because it's based on the things people are searching for, right? So like my media is there for people to consume when they're ready, like when they have that problem. It's not entertainment based. So it's those things, and like this kind of is entertainment-y, but it's also like it's a lot of learning and listening. It's like live podcasting, but I either have, but I can be there happy. At least in live streaming, I can watch and consume the replay. I can't even do that on Clubhouse.
Yeah, that's my biggest thing. Is like there's no replay function. If it had a replay function, I could see some value in it. But I think really, this is my personal opinion. This is not the opinion of Agora Pulse. Just putting that out there. To me, there's a lot of people who are talented, like you said, especially in the marketing space, the digital marketers, the keynote speakers, people who go to events and speak at events. And I was one of those. A lot of people they don't have those events, and this has become a really great outlet for them to kind of have a stage to talk and have people listen to them and follow them. They're getting clients from it, no doubt. And I get that, but I think once that newness wears off, it's kind of already heard a lot of bad stuff about Clubhouse, people just selling all the time. kind of getting old school, like Tony Robbins kind of, sales pitches and stuff. But I think it's going to wear off. And especially when live events come back for people, they're not going to have time to do that. Be on there. I see people talking about that. I was on there 12 hours yesterday. I'm like, what?
Oh, how did you do anything done?
Like, well, I had it in my pocket. I had it sitting to the side, but still, yeah.
I have to legit pay it. Listen, like,
yeah,
it's like reading a book. It gets your attention. Like, I can't listen to an audiobook and work. It's just people that can do that are incredible. And I know people who love it, like Fanzo, Brian Fanzo.
Oh yeah.
It's a platform that makes 1,000% sense to that guy.
100%.
He's got so much great info to share, and he's got so much knowledge. And he's just the guy that talks. And I'm sure that COVID has been like Clubhouse is probably like the greatest gift in the world for someone like him. I just think that for the masses, I don't think that it makes sense yet.
I like Sarah's comment. What I heard on Clubhouse about Mitch has in a room. Clubhouse is like a bad AM radio talk show where the host has lost control of the guest. Yeah, I think that I've heard about that too, or sometimes the people on stage won't get off or whatever.
Yeah, like if you're like once you bring someone into the stage, they have all of the access too. So you can't mute them and you can't remove them. Like it's stuck. It's clunky. It's in beta for a reason.
Right.
But
And I think, there obviously is a gap, and it's filling the gap right now.
Mm-hmm.
They're looking for venture capital. Their Twitter is going to maybe come out with their Twitter Spaces thing, and so I just kind of wonder how long it'll be a trend. I think once people are back into normal, whatever that looks like, work and they're traveling, they're going to events, especially like people who I'm seeing are the hottest on there. You're at events all the time. You're not gonna have time to do this app.
When I get into something, when I can find a good room, when I know it's coming, like I put in my calendar and like all that kind of stuff, I do like it for what it like. But I have to be like that. It has to be something I can do on my own time. Like that is my biggest pet peeve about Clubhouse.
Yeah,
that's it. I think it's cool. I think I'm excited to see what happens with it.
Right.
But I think it'll be. I think it'll be a niche platform.
Yeah, and I think at some point it'll get consumed by one of the bigger boys and
I think
become a feature.
Like Instagram or something like that's already working on something that's audio related.
Right. Yeah, Twitter is too. So I mean, I think there's obviously they've seen the need. Just like when COVID happened, Zoom became the hottest thing because it filled a need. I think Clubhouse is filling a need. So yeah. That's we could keep talking about Clubhouse probably for a very long time, but this isn't the show about Clubhouse. And I'm glad everybody loves it and who's using it and getting value from it. That's cool. I'm a podcast listener, not a lot, but I listen to podcasts while I'm in the gym or in the car, and I listen to it at 2 times the speed because I just want to hear it real fast.
Yes.
I don't want to listen to a slow conversation. I want to just get my info and go.
I listen to audiobooks. Like that's how I listen to audio.
Same way.
At like 1.5, 2 times speed.
Right.
So I can like bust through a book. I can listen fast. Like on a Clubhouse, I'm at like their speed and mercy, and
yeah.
Like I said, it has potential.
It does.
I'm looking forward to seeing how it grows.
Well, Desiree, I appreciate you being the first guest on Confessions of a Social Media Manager. If you want to follow Desiree, look for her, Mrs. Desiree with 2 E's, Rose, anywhere on social, and All in One Social is your company that people, and look for the book. Google, go on Amazon. Search for the book. 25th-ish.
You can get the Audible and listen to me at 2 times speed, which is going to be really weird because I already talk really fast.
What's funny talking about that is like there are some people in our space, and I listen to their podcast, and I always listen to it really fast, 2.5, and then when I meet them in person, I'm like, I feel like that sloth character, and like it's like they're really slow. And
like I recently finished listening to President Obama's book.
Oh, really?
And I had to speed it up because he talks really slow naturally too. But when you speed him up, like, this makes more sense. This is the speed I can handle. Yeah, and I'm with you too. I remember people like, or when they have to slow them down, like that's the opposite problem. Like my girl Jessica Stansbury, like they have to slow her down because she talks like how I talk. You're a lot to say, and I get a lot really fast in one breath. Like. The thing.
I'm the same way. I think what's ever on the top of my head. I'm not a scripted guy, so that probably gets me way, way off at times. Well, Desiree, I appreciate you being on the show. If you got a second, hang in the green room. I'll be back with you. Okay.
Okay.
All right, and that'll do it for episode 1 of Confessions of a Social Media Manager. We'll be here again next Thursday. I'm looking to see who my guest is next. My guest next Thursday is Caitlin Brower. Oh, I actually shouldn't have said that. So now I just gave it away. Oops. But you only those who listen to the very end of this will know that. So we'll see if anybody listened to the very end of this live. But yeah, I probably shouldn't reveal who that is if I'm saying it's secret, but lesson learned. But make sure if you haven't checked out anything I do on the lab, run over to agorapulselab.com. You can check out all of our past experiments and listen to our podcasts and all those good things. So I will see you all next week.